Welcome to my YouTube channel, all about the true nature of time. Now, in 2018, I wrote this little book here, and I put it over here next to my head. And in this book, I explain my own theory as to what time is. And you can go on Amazon.com, and you don't even have to buy it. You can just read the first chapter free. And the first chapter is only 7 pages long, so it won't take long. And in it, I explain my theory, the biological theory of time. And it has other things, like I have a new improved version of the calendar. And you can look at that. And I also talk about a new timeline for history. And so anyway, it explains what time is. Now, did you know that scientists don't know what time is? Did you know that? And you can go on YouTube and you can watch modern day scientists try to explain what time is, and they usually wind up saying, well, we don't really know what it is. Shh, don't tell anybody. But they don't. They don't know. And I think in my book, I say that we humans, including the scientists, have made this mass assumption that time is part of the entire universe, when it really isn't. Now, I have to look at my cheat sheet here. It's been said to be a great mystery of history, which it is. But we've all assumed that since we all see the world in the same way pretty much through this time mechanism that only exists inside our skulls, but we all have that system. And we've come to think of it as universal throughout the entire universe. But it is universal among humans. But once you clear that erroneous assumption out of the way, then we can make some progress in seeing what time really is. So, let's see. In my book, I also talk about St. Augustine. Now, St. Augustine was pretty famous. I mean, they named a town in Florida after him. You got to be pretty famous to have that happen. And he lived right about the end of the Roman Empire, in about 400 AD. And He famously said, "When I'm alone, I know what time is. But if somebody comes along and asks me to explain it to them, I cannot." And when I first read this, the 1,500 years between him and me sort of evaporated, because I think we've all felt that way. We know what time is. Time takes time to do this and that and the other. And we remember the times, the good times, the bad times. And but if we have to explain the nuts and bolts of it, and mechanical things that go on, we're clueless. We don't have a clue. It's like dreams. We all dream once in a while, but we have no idea how that operates in our heads. And well, like vision, we know we have vision. We know we can see things. Exactly how that works, we're pretty clueless. So now, the famous scientists of today, they're pretty clueless about time. Well, like Einstein, he said that time is a persistent illusion. And then he turns around and combines time with, he said time was the fourth dimension, piled on top of the three dimensions of space: width, depth, and height, and time. As though time was a physical property of the universe. So which is it, Al? Is it real or is it not real? Well, he didn't know. He never could figure out exactly what time was. And there's this current. He just died, but he's a current scientist. No, what's his name? Well, he's a crippled guy in the wheelchair that his body was pretty much worthless, except for his brain. That still worked. He couldn't even talk. He had this mechanical voice. Stephen Hawking. I knew I'd remember it eventually. He wrote a book, A Brief History of Time. And I think I read he sold like 10 million copies. And I know he made more than $1 on each book. So if he made $2, that was $20 million in there. But yet in the book, he didn't explain what time was, because he didn't know either. It was just that his enormous fame sold the book. And if you go on YouTube today, you'll find current scientists. They'll try to explain what time is. But they can't. They're still guessing. And all theories are guesses anyway. And my theory is also a guess. But I don't think you can explain my guess away. I think it'll hold up. Now, one of the things I recently found out about was in quantum mechanics. The theory of quantum mechanics explains, it's part of a theory of everything that scientists are trying to develop. And quantum mechanics is one of those theories. They don't fit together exactly yet. But in quantum mechanics, they have something called the Wheeler-DeWitt equation. And this Wheeler-DeWitt equation says that there is no time in the universe. There's no past or present or any of that. Now, my theory says the same thing, except there's an exception. There is time in the universe, but it only exists inside our skulls, right in there in that cottage cheese or whatever it is. That's where time exists, inside our skulls, inside our brains. That's where the past, the present, and the future exists, inside our skulls. Now this is a time is a 100% physical, biological mechanism that exists inside our brains. And this time mechanism is a biological navigation system. We walk through the world, we look here and there and check things out, and we have these two biological video cameras on the front of our faces. And it goes in to our brain. Then we have these two biological microphones on each side of our head. And then we have smell inside our nose and taste on our tongues. And we have these mechanical feelers that have a sense of touch. And of course, our skin has touch all over it, but we really rely on our fingertips. Now, this mechanical mechanism inside our skulls, well, we can't touch it or feel it or anything. We can only go by our senses. Well, like I have a physical, biological mechanism right here. It's got a hinge here, a biological hinge, and it has a biological hinge here and a bunch of little hinges on these things. But we can see this and we can touch it. But that thing in our skull, I guess you could drill a hole in your head and stick your finger in there, but you'd be gone for after you did that. So we'd rather just wait for somebody to come up with a better way of detecting this biological mechanism. So our brain is buried inside our skulls, and it has these sensors everywhere that feel out the real world. And like our vision is really a bunch of still pictures, just like in a video camera. And it's about every 30th of a second. That's the way video cameras work. They take still pictures about 30 times a second. And when we watch these videos, they look like real life. So I'm pretty sure that's what you could call now. Is it occurs every 30th of a second. And we walk through life and look at this and that and touch it and feel it to see what's out there. And our time mechanism records all these experiences that we experience as memories. So if you're walking along and not paying too much attention and something unusual happens, or fairly unusual, our mind records that and turns it into a memory. Time turns our experiences into memories, and it stacks these memories one page at a time into our memory. And if we do something stupid, like try to pet a lion, and he bites your hand off, that certainly goes into our memory. And later, after we manage to get away from the lion, and we're just looking at our stump, and we go back over our memories and we think, I'm never going to pet another lion. Or if you do something smart, like not pet the lion, but you watch some other fool who does pet the lion and loses a hand, you think, you go back on your memories and go over this occurrence and think, thank God I never petted that lion. Oh, what's his name, the damn fool, he lost a hand. I'll never do that. And there are umpteen little tiny things like that we do or don't do. And we, of course, learn what to do and what not to do. And that's what our time mechanism is for. It's a mechanism that helps us navigate through the real world. And and then the current, or now, every 30th of a second. We keep our eyes peeled. We look at things, anything unusual, we remember. And then we also notice that certain things happen over and over again. And we can count on them. Well, for instance, the sun coming up in the morning. It comes up and it slowly climbs through the sky. And when it's halfway up to the top of the sky, that's sort of mid-morning. And then when it's directly overhead, it's noon. So, and then of course it goes on to mid-afternoon and then to sunset. So throughout our lives, that happens over and over and over and over. And then the same with and that's that sun crossing the sky. That's daytime, and then nighttime, and then daytime. And we come to expect this to happen over and over. It hasn't happened yet. It's the middle of the night. But we expect that sun to come up in the morning. Now, this expectation of unhappened occurrences that we know will happen again or expect to happen again is what we call the future. And you have, well, back when we were all cavemen, or farmers, we didn't have clocks, but we had the sun to tell us it was daytime. And then it became night, but we knew there would be another day the next day. So the sun told us we would have days, and we counted them. And then at night, the moon has different phases. You have the new moon, little crescent moon, and it gets bigger and bigger, and then you have a full moon. And the moon describes every month, or month. That's where that started, I think. And then, to tell what time of year it was, of course, we had the weather to tell us in temperate zones. But to tell us what month it was or what time of year it was, we looked at the stars. The stars went all the way around in a year. So it was like a sky clock. And it still is, if you're interested in astronomy at all. And so that's where the past, present, and future comes from. But like I say in the book, we look at the world through time-colored glasses, all humans. So we've made the assumption that the whole universe is like that there's time in the universe. And excuse me. We've made this assumption that this time business exists throughout the universe. And for us humans, it does, because that's the only way we can look at the world and learn. But according to my theory, time stops here. You can't get out of here. Now, so I say in my theory that time doesn't cause anything to change or happen. Except one thing. Time will change our minds. That's the only thing it can change. We do something really stupid or really smart. We think, If it's really stupid, we say, I'm never doing that again. Or if it's something really smart, we think, boy, I'm going to do that every chance I get. That's the only thing time changes. It doesn't change the seasons. It doesn't cause the mountains to ride or the continents to drift or anything like that. And a lot of scientists have assumed that time began with the Big Bang. And time is a universe-wide something that caused all the universe to be pulled from the past and over our shoulders at the present and back into the past, and all of this stuff, which is not true at all. Now, we all know that things change. They're always changing. So if time doesn't do it, what does? Well, that's part of my theory, is that all of this change takes place because of something I call change of physical position. Now, when you think of all the changes that have taken place in your life and everybody else's life that lives on Earth, and all the changes in the universe, the galaxies and the comets and the meteors and all that stuff moving around. Well, I call that change of physical position. And the common denominator of this change is basically atoms, because atoms make up everything. Our bodies, our houses, the dirt beneath our feet, the entire planet of Earth, and all the bazillions of other physical objects out there. The one thing they all have in common, the one common denominator of all this change, is the motion of atoms. Because atoms have a They have a nucleus. And the nucleus is, excuse me, is made up of several little particles. And the larger the atom, the more particles, and they're just in constant, furious motion, constantly. And then these atoms all have electrons that rotate around the atom billions of times per second. So even in something as solid and unmovable as an anvil, a big steel anvil, it doesn't look like it's in motion at all, but on the atomic level, it's in constant, furious motion. They're all hooked together, but they almost quiver on the atomic scale. So this change of physical position, or COP as I like to call it, is what causes all change to happen. So we don't need time at all. And one of the theories of physical matter is called quantum mechanics. Now, I don't think I went over this 10 minutes ago. Anyway, there's two scientists, John Archibald Wheeler and Bryce DeWitt. They got together and they worked out the Wheeler-DeWitt equation. And this Wheeler-DeWitt equation says that there is no time in the universe. So I'm not alone in saying that time doesn't exist. But this Wheeler-DeWitt equation assumes that time is not a mechanical thing in the universe. It's not a universe-wide thing. But time is humanity-wide. That's why we've assumed, again, that time is universe-wide when it isn't. So this Wheeler-DeWitt equation backs up my belief that there is no time in the universe. So let me check my cheat sheet again here. Well, I think I've kind of covered it all. As far as my theory of what time is. So, let's see. I already showed you my book. So, oh, what the heck. I'll show it to you again. I'll go up close so you can see I even designed the cover myself. Well, that sort of covers the whole subject of what time is. Now, I make other videos where I talk about different chapters in the book, like the history of our calendar and my idea of a new improved calendar, which I think most people would like. And I think a lot of people would think I'm trying to play God or something by changing the calendar. But when we realize that the calendar was designed by men, although God might have made our year last 365 days, he didn't design a calendar for us. We had to do that. And being human, you know how those humans are. Sometimes they mess up a little bit. So that's the whole idea behind my new calendar, is just to clear up a mess made by other humans. And I won't explain the whole thing right now, but one of the problems with our current calendar is the months in the calendar are all different lengths of time. So what's the point of that? For instance, an hour is an hour now, is an hour last month, and next month it'll always be an hour, the same length of time. The same with a second or a minute or a day or a week. They're all exact amounts of time. And so is the year. We have leap years, but that's just because the year is 365 and 1/4 days long. So we have a leap year to make up for that. But the year's the same length, the week, the day, the hour, but the month is always different. That's kind of crazy. So anyway, I covered that in my book. And I guess I'll say goodbye for now. And I'll see you on the next video. And I'll have several videos. So, okay. See you later. Bye.